We're going to begin today by looking at the supplies that we're going to use. We're going to start out with the ink. I use the Distress inks, Tim Holtz, made by Ranger. The ones we're going to use today will be the Chipped Sapphire, the Salty Ocean, the Wilted Violet, and the Seedless Preserves. In order to apply our inks to our paper, one of the favorite things that I like to use are the soft brushes. I have two sizes that I like to use. This is the large size that I use for larger areas, and the smaller size. This I use for a little bit smaller areas that I have tighter areas that I want to use my blending. These are very, very soft brushes and make a great blending. I also use daubers when I do my inks. I like to use these little tiny thumb daubers. You'll see that I put a number on mine. What I have done is I take my inks, and in the bottom I put a little number on them. That matches to the dauber. That makes it a lot easier to find the ink and dauber and match it up to my ink so that I don't have to worry about mixing them up. I have a little box that I keep them in. I keep them in numeric order so that it matches what's on the bottom of the stamp pad, and then I can find the dauber that's the right color to go with the ink pad very, very quickly. One of the things I like to do is I have created like little palette cards, I guess you would call them, of my inks. I've pulled out the 4 colors that I wanted to use today. This makes it a lot easier for me to find the ink that I want to use without starting a project and putting an ink on it and then going, oh, that's really not the color I wanted. On the back of the little cards, I just put the name of the ink. That way I can match them up really easily. So those are the 4 that I'm going to use today. The black ink that I'm going to use today is the Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. I like to use the Archival inks because they're acid-free and they're a permanent ink, so they will last a long time. You can get them in this size pad, which is probably around a 4 by 6 inch size pad, or you can get them in the smaller ones as well. I like the big one because I can use my bigger stamps and ink them up easier that way. Today we're also going to use the Lavinia Stamps. We're only going to use 2. This is going to be a very nice simple project. We are going to use the Broadwin and Malin set. We're going to use the owl that is in flight for this particular card. And then we're going to use the tree branch. I love this one. This one is a very classic, great stamp. I use it all the time. This one's code is LAV 506. You can find that on the DelBellosDesigns.com website. And the Owls, Broadwin, and Malin is LAV 639. For our paper today, I'm actually going to be using the Strathmore Mixed Media. It's a 117-pound paper, vellum surface. It's a nice smooth surface, so that makes it a lot easier for blending the inks. I like this paper a lot. I also have the multifarious paper on order that I'm going to get from Bello's. It's a 120-pound paper and it's very, very good for using to make cards. As we go along, I will give you all of the dimensions of what we're going to do for our cards. So what I've done with this cardstock is I have cut it down to be 4 3/4 inches by 3.5 inches. This is what we will create our art on. I'm also going to be using cardstock today for the base card and for a frame card. I have taken a 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. This is about a 65-pound weight cardstock. Cut it in half. So we end up with a 5.5 by 8.5 inch size card. With that, I'm then going to fold it in half, which then creates my card base. I'm also going to use a card frame. I like the way that the frame looks. I've actually keep a couple of colors on hand. The size that I cut, this is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. What happens with that is once we get our art done on our cardstock, that gives a nice little frame that you can then put on top of your card to give a very nice finished look. The other items that we're going to use today will be a circle mask. This is one that I've actually created myself, but on the Bello site, website, they have a wonderful packet of masks for circles, and they also have them for hillsides and mountains and that type of thing. Very, very handy things to have for making your cards with. What I like to do is, I've been given a little tip that I love, that because sometimes it just disappears when you lay it down on something. Use a little gold or silver or some kind of color of pen. This is a Posca pen. On the top of it, just do a little scribble, and then that way when you set it down, you'll be able to see it fairly easily. It won't get lost, because these things are very hard to find sometimes. So we'll be using the 1.5 inch circle today. Another one of the things that I really love to use are the Stardust glitter pens. The set that I have is actually, the ink is clear, and then you've got a kind of a silver color of the glitter on the inside. And actually, each of these have slightly different color of glitters on the inside. This one is more of a pinky silver, and then I've got one that's got a little more of a green silver. But anyway, I love this set. You can also get a set on the site that has the ink is actually a color along with the sparkle, so you can get like a blue base with your glitter on the inside, or a green base, or a pink base, whatever. So this is a great thing for accenting and putting a little sparkle on your project. Also, what I like to use is a water mister. This one is the Tim Holtz Distress Sprayer. This one is nice because if you spritz quickly, you get a faint mist, or if you spritz slowly, you get a little bit bigger droplets of water to give a little bit bigger effect. The reason I really like to use this, especially on a nighttime scene, is it kind of gives you the effect or the feel of stars or celestial comets and planets, that type thing. In a winter kind of scene, it gives you a snowy feeling, and I'll show you how we do that. With that, when we do that project, we will need to use a paper towel that will help us to dab up the water. I'll show you that as we get to that point. As we put our project together, I like to use the permanent tape. This one is really nice because it's got the little running edge on it, so it's quite easy to use, but any of the adhesive tapes works great for these projects. And then our final item that we will be using, and it's a little bit hard to see, but these are photo corners. For the inside of my card, I like to make a reusable card that can be taken in and out. That way you can pass this card on to someone else. They can take the card out and they can put their own in and then share it with someone else. I'll show you that as we go along too at the end. So I think now we are ready to go ahead and start on our project. So we are taking our 4 3/4 by 3.5 inch size card, and we're going to take our mask for the moon, and I just like to put a little bit of painter's tape on the back of it, and just gonna tape it there into the center. That way it keeps it from moving around as I'm applying my inks. We're going to start out with the Wilted Violet. I'm going to go ahead and open up all of my stamps here, put my inks there, the lid above it so that I'll know which one is which. Then I'm going to go ahead and start with the Wilted Violet. So I'm going to take my Wilted Violet and put some ink on my soft brush. Another little hint that I was told, my hands already are filthy from playing around. If you take a little piece of cardstock or paper that you're not using and hold your card in place with that on top, it keeps your smudgy fingers from getting all over the project that you're working on. So we're just going to take our soft brush, going in circular motions. We're just going to kind of go around our moon mask here and give us a nice soft purple look. Just a little bit more and just get a nice little soft blend of the ink. Okay, so there we've just got a little bit of the purple. You can always go back in and add just a little bit more if you'd like to. Alright, and then we're going to move on to the Seedless Preserves. Now with the Seedless Preserves, what we're going to do is just give a little bit of an aura around the moon. The way we're going to do that is we're going to actually start on the mask and swipe out as we go around to kind of give it a little bit of a feathery aura around the moon. So get a little more ink on there, and then we're just going to feather it out just a little bit. You don't want to go too far, just enough. Where you get that little feel of the aura. So we're just going to put a little there, and we'll be able to see the effect a lot better once we actually take the mask off. We're going to wait and do that in just a moment. So there you can kind of see that we've got that little glowing edge around the side of the moon. Next, we're going to go ahead and go with our Salty Ocean. So we're going to take our little soft brush, get a little ink on there, and again, very gently, softly and in circles, we're going to apply the ink. Even though we're going to use the Chipped Sapphire on the edge, I'm going to go ahead and still take the Salty Ocean all the way out to the edge of my card. And I'll just do it until I'm happy with the way it looks. Now, one of the things that you'll probably notice is that I'm not going to make the color necessarily be even all the way around. It'll have lighter spots in it and darker spots in it. I like to go ahead and leave those in there, especially when I'm doing a sky effect. It does give a little bit more of that fluffy, cloudy sky kind of feel to it. You don't want it to be perfectly blended so that all the colors are exactly one shade. Alright, so now we've got that. So we're going to go ahead and take our Chipped Sapphire. Looks like I've got a little something in that one. We're going to get that off there. So we're going to take our Chipped Sapphire. I'm actually going to end up using two methods. We're going to start out with the soft brush so that we can get a very soft effect started. And we're just going to kind of do it around the edges, just blend it just a little bit around the edges. That kind of gives us, the darker blue kind of gives us a little bit more of the feel that it's nighttime. bit more on, and then I'll show you how we're actually going to darken the very edges out. It kind of gives a little bit of a frame. So like I said, with this, with the soft brushes, you get a nice soft feel. But when we're wanting to do the frame, we actually want it to be a little more intense. So I'm going to get my dauber full of ink, and I'm actually going to start off the card. And with the circular motions, I'm going to move onto the card. This kind of helps you to not get the circle blob from the dauber when you start at the edge and start your blending process. So off to the edge, slowly move on to the cardstock, onto your card. And so hopefully you can see now that we are getting just a little bit of a darker framed edge. It's almost like it kind of gives a frame that holds the whole picture in. It gives it a nice moody feel on the outside edges as well. A little bit darker there in the corner. And then we may just go back and just blend just a little bit, just to smooth it all together there. All right, so there we've got our background going. I'm going to go ahead and close up my inks because I'm very bad about sticking my arm or my hand in them. So we'll set those off to the side. Now we are going to go ahead and take off our mask now for our moon. There you go, you can see that we've got a really good start there. Now I like the look of clouds kind of flowing across the moon. So one of the ways that we do that is by doing a mask with a piece of paper that's torn to make a ragged kind of edge. So let's say we're just going to take a piece of paper, just kind of tear it into various little ups and downs and lines. And with that, then you can create a mask for making clouds that will go across. I have one that I really like, this one here, and we're going to go ahead and use this one. All right, and I'm just going to use the chipped sapphire, I think, on this to get my clouds created. I'm actually not going to add more ink. I'm just going to keep the ink that's on here. I'm going to start by starting on the mask piece and gently just flicking out just a little bit, just a little over the edge. We don't want to go very far. You can do it into the sky part as well. And then we're just going to create what looks like some clouds floating across the moon. So again, I'm just barely kind of flicking off the edge. Just enough to kind of create the look that the soft clouds are moving across our moon. Let's see how we want to do this one here. Now if you get to the bottom and you feel like it's not dark enough, you can always add a little ink. Just be very careful not to overdo. So we're just going to put a tiny bit there, a little bit on the outside. And then I'm going to go ahead and put another little layer down here into the sky part, just so that we can get a little bit more cloud effect. So, as you can see, we've kind of got what looks like clouds wisping across the surface of the moon. Okay, now we are to the part that I talked about a little earlier with the spritzing to get our stars or our celestial kind of look to the night sky. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our distress sprayer and we're just going to spritz a little bit on the surface of our card. Let it sit for just a second, take our paper towel and daub it up. And as you can see, we kind of get a little starry and planet and comet kind of effect, a very celestial, cool looking effect there. So, as I said before, the stamps that we're going to use today are just two. We're going to use the broad one in Malin, LAV 639. We're going to use the Flying Owl. And we're going to use the Tree Branch, LAV 506, for our frame of branches around our card. So I'm going to grab my owl stamp here. I am going to dab it on my ink pad. I like to get a lot of ink on my ink stamp. That way I get a nice, good, solid effect. You can tell if you're getting a good coating on it because you get a little bit of a shine or on the surface of the stamp. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our owl kind of going across the front of the moon. Looks like the moon will be behind him. And we're just going to hold it down. I like to rub my finger over it or my thumb just a couple of times to try and make sure that I'm putting enough pressure to get full contact with the stamp on the paper. Just press and rub just to make sure we get a good clean impression. And then I'm just going to hold it there for just a couple of seconds. That way it gives the ink just a little bit of a chance to kind of absorb into the paper. I'll press on it just one more time. Make sure we got good contact there. And gently lift off, and there we go. Very nice impression there. And then we're going to do the same thing with our branch. We're going to dab it on our ink pad so that we get a good solid surface coverage on the ink. I do like to put a piece of paper behind my card because obviously we're going to have our ink, our stamp's going to overlap off of the card, so I don't want to get all the ink all over my work surface here. So I'm just going to come from the center there, center of the corner, and just do a nice good little impression there. And a little bit more ink on there. Kind of work our way around the edge of the card. And lift that up. A little more ink. Kind of come in, get a good amount from the corner on this one as well. All right, looking good. I think for this one, I kind of like to get some of the branches going across the moon, so it gives a little bit of depth. Impression of the moon being in the background. Get a little bit more, let's see, maybe right here we can kind of get a little bit with the wing in between the branches. press down on that and get a good impression. Oh yeah. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of a branch just right here in the corner coming in. Let's see, maybe one like this. There we go. And that just kind of gives it a nice night frame. Bring this one in from the corner as well. Do a nice little impression there. And then let's do one more little branch coming up. We're going to actually let these cross just a little bit so it looks like the branches are kind of coming in front of the other tree. All right, there we go. Take this out of the way so you can kind of see what the frame of the tree branches looks like. That looks really nice there. All right, the last thing I like to do is to get my glitter gel pen. I just love this because I love the effect that it gives. I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and just outline the clouds so it looks like the moon is reflecting onto the bottom of the clouds. So we're just going to take our little gel pen here and follow some of our cloud lines that we did earlier so that we get that effect of the moon shining off of them. There we go. Oh, that's going to look really nice. We've got some cloud lines down here below as well, so we're going to go ahead and put just a few shimmers in there. Maybe a few up here on the top. I know you probably can't see them as I'm doing them, and hopefully when I show it to you and get the right light angle, we'll be able to catch that little bit of glitter. It's kind of hard to see when you try and take a picture of it on a video. One of the things we can also do if we'd like to is do that a little bit on the wings of our owl as well, so that it looks like the moonlight is also shimmering off of the edges of our wings. So we just do a few little glimmers in there. Make it look like we're catching the edge of the moonlight on the wings. So hopefully that we'll be able to get a little bit of the picture here of the glitter effect. All right, so now we're done with the artwork portion of our card, and we can go ahead and start putting it all together. So we have got our base art frame piece here. That one is 4 3/4 by 3.5 inches. I like to make a frame to put my cards on top of, and let's see if I can grab one here. So basically it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch frame around the edge. So what I cut this larger white piece for the frame, I cut that to be 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is take this piece, my art piece, and take my adhesive and run it along the edges. And then we're going to mount it in the center of that to provide our little frame. I usually just eyeball it, hopefully can get it pretty even that way. And just press it down. And now we have our nice frame. Then we will take our card piece. So you remember that we had cut our piece in half, our 8.5 by 11 in half, and then we folded this piece to make our card. So we're going to take this, do the exact same process with our adhesive tape. And now we will mount that. Center it on the top of our card. And there we go. Now we're ready for our inside. I like to make my cards be recyclable. So I cut a frame piece about the exact same size as the 5" by 3.5, so it's the same as the frame. And we're going to put it on the inside of our card, but we're going to do it using photo corners. I like to use the clear photo corners. You probably aren't going to be able to see them very well here, but you can use any color you like, silver, or gold, or black, or any of the colors that they make. What I do is I like to have the photo corners be just a little bit bigger so that it's easy for the next person to take out the card that's in there and insert their own. So I make my card kind of a guide card. It's about only 1/16 of an inch bigger, but it's just enough so that it makes it a little easier for people to take the card in and out. So I'm going to take my guide card. That's about a 5/16 by 3 3/13/16. That's kind of hard to say. Inches. And I'm going to put my little clear photo corners right on each of the corners of my guide card. So I've got my guide card now already. So I'm going to take this and place it on the inside of my card and press down on each of those photo corners so that they attach. Then I'm going to take my guide card out, and like I said, it might be hard to see, but now I've got my photo corners in there. Then I'm going to take either a blank card or a card, like here's one where I've got just a note. So I'm going to take that, just a note card, and slide it into my corners. And like I said, with them being slightly farther apart, it makes it a lot easier to put it in there. And there we go. So we have got our inside that the recipient can then take their card out, put in a new one, and send it or give it to someone else. And the beautiful art can be shared with more than one person. This was a very simple project. I like this one because it actually does a couple of things. First of all, for beginners, you only have to use a couple of stamps. You don't have to worry about placing a bunch of different stamps around. So this is a nice, easy first project to do. It kind of gives you an idea of how to do the blended background, and then how to do a very simple, basic design that really has a stunning effect. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, that you've learned something from it. I know this particular card, I think, has been done in different ways by different people. Please be sure and look at the first of the video where I thank people for their inspiration that I got this from. And I hope that you will have a good time trying to do this particular card. And if you have any questions, I'm so happy to be able to answer anything that I can for you. So enjoy your crafting time, and I look forward to seeing you on our next video tutorial. Have a great day.